Welcome, everyone, to the Bee Shifter podcast. You've got John Vance here along with Josh Blum. And today, Grant Light is with us. Good day, gentlemen. How are you doing?
Doing wonderful.
All good. Just still got a ton of white stuff on the ground here, and it's, I think, record cold temperatures coming this week for sure.
Cincinnati, you guys have been hammered. I mean, are you at record snow right now? Is that the deal?
Yes.
Yeah, I think we got record snow, and then we got more snow on the ground than we've had like for any period of time, I think, ever. And then I think this coming Monday, I think going to be like record cold. Those guys coming in town for a trainer, Phoenix, Las Vegas, and Houston. I told them you better pack an extra bag.
Yep.
We had to, last time they were in town, we had to provide them with coats.
I am at the AVBCTC in beautiful Phoenix right now. It's a balmy 68 degrees. It almost feels like we have a little bit of a marine inversion. So there's actually a little humidity in the air, which feels fantastic. But unfortunately, I'm going to have the harsh slap of reality around 10:30 tomorrow when I land at MSP and find myself back in Minneapolis with much of the same weather. So I'll enjoy this while I can.
John, I'm super happy. That humidity must be causing your mustache to grow back.
I know. You like that? It's kind of like a chia pet.
Yeah, I like the John Vance mustache better than the 13-year-old boy look.
Oh, thank you very much. It's funny. I did a class and somebody called it my credibility mustache. You're growing a credibility mustache, aren't you? You got to be recognized as an incident commander. You need a mustache. Anyway, hey, today we're going to talk about an incident that Grant responded to recently, and it was a technical rescue incident. And Grant is also a member of the USAR team, very experienced with technical rescue incidents, and you happen to respond to them a lot. Why don't you set the stage for us, Grant, and let us know what this incident was and how you guys got called to it.
So I'm on a couple different teams. This was the Northern Kentucky technical rescue team got called. So there's a power plant downriver from Covington, Kentucky, owned by Duke Energy. Basically, it's got a 900-foot smokestack. And at the 300-foot level, they go up to that level quite often. And they can do some testing of the smoke that's coming out, whatever they got to do. There's you go inside the smokestack, there's like a little space there with a desk and some meters and all kinds of stuff that they go up there and then do their job, and then they come back down. To get there is an external little teeny weeny 1.5 man elevator that runs on the outside exterior of the smokestack. A guy was going up that, got to about 150 feet ish, and then a part that keeps the elevator locked onto the track. It's just a tubular track that goes up. It's kind of a set of wheels that kind of lock in, like on a roller coaster. You see the wheels that kind of go on the sides of the track. That piece fell off. It partially fell off and jammed up the machine. So then it stopped moving. They tried to lock the brakes, move the brakes, did a couple things to try to get it to move, and then the piece kind of swung around and was now kind of hanging there below the one-man external elevator. So at that point, they were like, "We're not doing anything else. Like we're done. We don't want to screw with it." They ended up calling local fire department. They don't really have an on-site team. So they called the local fire department, which called the technical rescue team, which got a bunch of us there. So that's kind of how it laid out. Originally, man stuck 150 feet in the air in an elevator on a smokestack.
So was this a rope rescue? Is that what you were planning on at first, or were you looking to mechanically take over the elevator, or what was the objective when you first got there?
So we obviously were not the first people on the scene. We were called after, fire department got there. Some other people showed up. In Kentucky, the EMA people are kind of overriding. They have a lot of authority. In some states, they're more of a support. And in Kentucky, they're kind of more of a big part of what goes on, especially in something like this. So they were there. And originally, so we had a couple plans going. So first off, we had to find out kind of what happened. How's the guy in there? Find out what the elevator company says, how precarious is this position? So that was really the first thing. They called the elevator people, had a big discussion with them about, what actually moves the elevator. How does it actually go up and down? And in today's technology, the advantage you got is you can zoom in on it with your camera, take a picture, zoom in on that picture, take a screenshot, and then send that to the elevator people, and they can actually look at it as opposed to you kind of trying to describe it. You can actually, send them pictures of what's really going on, and then they can go like, okay, that piece is important for its movement, but it is not important for it to stay, to fall or not fall. It's not that, it's not a cog in the wheel of moving up and down, but it does keep the elevator lined up, and they suggested not moving it. So we didn't. But they said it was not, in their word, it's not going to fall. It's going to stay where it is. That doesn't keep it from falling in any way, shape, or form. So that was good news. And then it came down to how we going to, get the guy out of there, kind of thing.
And he was stable, no medical emergency or anything.
No problem at all. Very cool. Dave, I don't even know his last name. It was Dave on the radio, because I had a radio. I could talk to him. How you doing, Dave? I'm fine. Okay. We did talk to Dave, and I asked him if he had a cell phone so we could have a much longer conversation, that kind of thing. And he said no. So they're not on the site. They're not supposed to have cell phones. So he said, no, I ain't got one. So everything had to be over the radio. The issue we had is they told us his radio battery was getting low. So that's why we were going to try to shift to the cell phone plan. So that didn't work out. We just gave him the information, said, turn it off for 15 minutes. We'll, turn it back on and we'll talk to you again, in a little bit, kind of thing. So we just overcame that, issue by just limiting the conversation.
Grant, was there any value in, I know you've spent some time in some of these places, along the Ohio River, there's coal powered, energy plants everywhere. So they're not all exactly the same. A lot of them that I think that we've done training in.
I was going to say, you've been in those too.
For on-site groups, right? The elevator runs on the inside and some of them does run on the outside, all of that. But, is there, I guess that's almost like maybe like a start of a pre-plan in your head when you're going into that. Was there value in that? Were you thinking about that? Were there people there thinking about it?
Well, one thing I guess a lot of people may not know, and we learned because Josh, you and I did trainings down in some of these plants, is that the smokestack is really two layers. There's an inner layer, which is usually brick, and then an outer layer that you normally see, which is concrete. I don't know why. This is what it is. And then there's a space between those two. At the bottom, that can be much larger than as it goes up and up and up. As that thing goes up, that space gets closer and closer together. So if you stand back and look at the smokestack, you can see that it's tapering in. The internal one generally stays straight, and then the outside one tapers in. So much in this instance, at the 300-foot level, we ended up climbing up. So at the 300-foot level, you're still climbing between those two layers. At the 600-foot level, you would still climbing between those layers. To go to the 900-foot, you have to go outside and climb an external ladder. So those layers are getting closer and closer and closer together as they go up. And then there was walkways, internal and external at 300 and 600. And then you had to go the rest of the way up. If we didn't go that far, but if we had to, you would have been on the exterior of the smokestack to do the rest of the climb.
So that smokestack's 1,000 feet.
9 something, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. That's a lot of steps.
Yeah.
When you fly into CVG here and you look along that river, there's, I don't know, probably 50 of them that you see right around CVG and between Southern Ohio and then, Kentucky and Indiana, all up and down through there, all of the old or the Duke Energy plants, and now they're being, some of them are being converted over or whatever, but they're mostly all the same. Mostly all those coal powered plants are similar in how they're laid out and built and what they do and how they work, and I guess technology advancements. But those smokestacks, a lot of those were like 50s time frame, 50s,
Oh,
60s
yeah.
time frame built. So
as a blue card practitioner, Grant, how do you approach this type of incident using the critical factor, risk management, all the different components of blue card, and how do you interface that to the rest of the command system?
Well, I mean, I think just like anything else, the critical factors are somewhat easy to figure out. Just like you asked, like first off, is that elevator stable, not stable? That's really the most important thing. Do we have a bigger issue if they talk to the elevator people and they said, yeah, that piece like keeps it from falling. Well, then now we got to figure a way to try to grab the elevator or get we have to deal with that. We're having them say that it's not going to fall. That was a huge step forward, right? So then the next thing, as you said, is the guy. Is he in any issue? Does Dave have a problem? Does he, and he had no real issues. He said, I'm fine. I'm good. It was cold, but he was a worker that was prepared for that. It's an external ride up that elevator, whether it's working, not working. So he wasn't, didn't have his Bermuda shorts on. So he was all ready to go. So then it just became what's the safest way to do this? And, not always the coolest way to do it, but the safest way to do this. And those discussions were going on with the Duke people, the EMA people, the fire department people, and the tech rescue people. So there was the management. It was all like a unified command, basically. What you missed were in that was, and I know this sounds weird to say, but you were in a bubble. You're in a protected, chain linked, secured space. I mean, all those power plants are all secured. So there was good, bad, or indifferent. No media to deal with. No anybody but us. Right? There was nothing else that we had to we got to go talk to these people, and who are those people over there? And it's very controlled. So that really made it easy because it was just us there coming up with a joint plan, and then going with that plan, kind of thing.
So what did the plan end up being, and how did you guys communicate that, put together the IEP, and get it done?
So the safest way, the safest way was to get, because he was only at 150 feet only, but he wasn't at 300 or 600. So it was to get a crane and use a man basket to lift the crane, lift the man basket up, bring it up beside the elevator, get him out that way. So that crane, so they do a lot of work there. Obviously, it's a big plant. So dealing with crane people was no issue for them. They made some calls and they said it would be there in like an hour and 10 minutes. And I think it pulled in at an hour and whatever they said, it was there like that. So they needed a crane, a man basket. And so that showed up just fine. Well, that was called. They said it'd be there. They've been there before. So it wasn't like this was, the crane people were like, yeah, we know exactly how the setup is there. Yeah, no problem. So then the plan B was a rope rescue, so we obviously couldn't take the elevator up. So we had to climb it. So not a big deal. And there's a 50-foot section, 35, 50, whatever. You climbed up, and then there was a ring there, a catwalk ring that went around the whole inside. And then you moved over to just a straight ladder that went up to the 300-foot mark. So, and we did ask CG&E, is that 300 really 300, or is it you just call it 300 and it's 280 or something like that? And they said, no, it's 300. So a 300-foot rope wasn't going to work. So that was, part of hey, we got to make sure all these numbers, are right. If they said it was, it's really 250, we just call it 300. Well, then we might have got away with a shorter rope, but okay, we had 600-foot ropes there. So it's not a big deal. So there was a group of 4 of us. We talked it out on the ground, how, what our plan was. We were going to climb, I want to say minimally, and just we had a 600-foot tagline that we could lower down and then start pulling up equipment, if that makes sense. So we weren't trying to carry all that stuff up, because that would have just been a lot of work. The other thing that you don't realize is that space between those 2 smokestacks is not out in the open air, and that inner smokestack's hot. And so we're all out in, 10, 20 degree weather, whatever it was, with all our warm weather stuff on. But thank God there was a crossover at the 30-foot level, because we got to there, it's like, this ain't working. Like, so everybody, most of us took us a moment, took off our harness, took our big coats off, our sweatshirts off, all that stuff, put the harness back on, and then just kind of stuck it behind our back between the harness and ourselves. And then the climate was no problem, but it was hot in there. So we just dressed down, then we got up. So they had a system for man capture. So as you climbed up, this piece slid on a pipe, and then if you were to lose your footing or whatever, it would automatically lock to keep you from falling. That piece that they gave us to say, here, this is what you use, worked fine, but it didn't match the ladder that goes up to the 300-foot level. So that system was only designed for whatever that first level is, 35 feet, something like that. 50, I don't know what it was, but it was designed for that because they do that a lot. And I've since talked to the safety guy at the location, and today I talked to a guy who does a lot of standby. He's a fireman, days off, he does confined space standby and all that. And he said, yeah, they never climb that ladder. And that's what the CG&E or the Duke guy told me. He said, we never climb that ladder up there. They're actually, I think today, going to do a thing where they actually climb it just to see how that all works out. So that piece didn't fit. All of us had lobster claws, so just a big, like, giant carabiner that you can lock, unlock, and then use that to just climb, hook as you climb up. So we just switched over to those and then climbed the other 250, whatever it was, up to the 300-foot level. It really wasn't that big a deal to do.
And you were mentioning they even, one of the first alternatives that they were going to try their ladder truck, and that didn't even come close, right?
Nobody's got a 150-footer.
No, this isn't China. Yeah, it's European. So, when you're interfacing, coming in is really the expert on technical rescue and the people who are going to oversee that part of the operation. When you're talking to command, are there things that you ask command, or is there kind of some way that you get that established that they are looking at risk management and essentially they have their act together?
Yeah, because it was this closed group, everything was just face to face out in the open. It wasn't like you got to. They didn't bring in a big command post. We're just all standing there, basically in the base of the smokestack. And then we had a guy who was in charge of the rescue side. So we talked to him and said, here's what he said, hey, you're going to run the rope thing. Okay. You guys are going to do the man basket thing. You figure out what you need. How we're going to make all this work. So we kind of came up with our plan, what our thoughts were without ever having been up there. And so then and then the other team, then we all met back together again, said, here's kind of what we think. And then he said, yeah, they talked to the elevator people. That's good. The crane's on the way. So he was kind of our middleman to the overall overarching management with Duke Energy and the fire department and the EMA, that kind of thing. But there was we could have walked over to the Duke if there was really any questions for them. We realized early on that they used the elevator. So the questions about how the ladder and the attachment, we don't know because we don't use that. We don't do that. So, okay.
What was the time elapse from the time the fire department originally got called? And you could be approximate to when the patient was removed.
Well, when we got there, so probably a little over 2 hours, 2.5 hours, maybe, because it was an hour for the crane to get there. So there was a little conversation to make that happen. So I was getting there with another guy, and when we started having the original conversations, they said, hey, they've already called for a crane. So an hour, it may have taken us from when we originally left, half hour to get there, crane an hour. And then really once it was there, it wasn't that long to get him down.
With the crane company, is that a crane company you guys have dealt with before? Did you say that? And do they know the kind of rigging that needs to happen for a rescue type situation, or is it just normal rigging that they would use to move manpower anyway?
Yes, it's normal man basket rigging. A couple of the people that were put on that group are on the federal team that I'm on, and we do a HERS class. So a lot of those guys have had rigging. We do man basket work with that HERS class we do. So they were there to help kind of augment hey, this is what we need that's different than putting dudes in this thing to cut something with a torch or something. Like, we're going to step out of it. So we need to be able to have an extension on this. And so they were able to kind of explain what we were going to do different than what the riggers, crane people are used to. So it wasn't like, hey, just going to pay them this, hang on. We're actually going to step out and then climb down inside that car and put a harness on Dave and then hook Dave up, get him out into the man basket, and then we're going to come out and get in the man basket. So that was, a little different than what the crane people are used to, kind of thing.
Right.
But I don't think there was any real pushback. It was just like, we'll explain it to you, then we'll work on it together, then we'll go do it, kind of thing.
Yeah, I think one of the things, just to circle back around on that whole crane thing, is in that world, sometimes we don't know how we feel about that, right? Depending on who is it? Is somebody on site? Do they know the people? And in this case, the guy wasn't hurt, but it still was an unstable position. I mean, even the company said, yeah, this car's not going to move, but they're not there. They're telling you it's not going to move and hoping that it doesn't, right? But that's a big difference, I think, when you're talking about you're going to be moving somebody out of something that is broken 150 feet in the air in a basket that's hanging, right?
Oh.
So, that whole process of what does that really look like? And, you guys obviously had, plan B set up of doing the rope system. But that's one of those things, I think, that what's the risk involved here? And then what are our resources? Like, who is this really? So like you said, having guys that are part of that team in Northern Kentucky, but they're also, on the federal team as rescue specialists or heavy riggers or whatever, that's a big deal. So, knowing those people. And then I want to talk about a little bit of, like, we've kind of breezed over it. And, we kind of talked about it was controlled a little bit more because there was no outside influence because you're inside of a, secured, facility basically. But, how does that really work in this instance, and like in other instances that you've been exposed to or experienced with an outside team coming in and collaborating and working with, the local jurisdiction, and then the people who are there on site who are the subject matter experts who we really need to lean on them, kind of like at a hazmat incident. Like,
oh, absolutely.
What is really going on here? So can you just elaborate on that a bit?
Well, we've been involved, or I've been involved in incidents. The teams I'm with, where kind of what you say, they've gone the whole gamut. Where we walked up and they go, "It's yours," like you do your thing, and we'll just kind of step back. And then when we've done other incidents, we're not comfortable with that, so we want their people involved to know what we're doing. We don't want them just to go, hey, whatever you say goes. Like, we want to be questioned. We want to be asked, so they fully understand what we're going to do. That takes a little bit longer in some instances, but everybody's on the same page, as opposed to somebody walking away go, I got no clue what they're talking about. Well, we'll explain it to you. We'll put it in plain English, and we want your buy-in. We want everybody's buy-in, especially, like you said, the fire chief of that local jurisdiction is ultimately in charge. And the Duke people are ultimately in charge. So we want them to understand, like, exactly, what we're doing here, like how we're going to do it. I think they understand the man basket side because that's something that they do a lot there, right? That's a big, giant plant, and they have to get to places, and that's not foreign to them. What we were going to do with it, climbing onto that thing, and then I'll get to a conversation about the doors on the car, that kind of stuff. That's a little different. So there was a conversation about that. So I'll just go there. Because that elevator, when it gets to its normal point, has a side door that opens. All right. And then it has an escape hatch on the top. So there was talk about, well, we can just put the man basket next to the side of it and just open that door. And our people were like, no. That's open. He doesn't have anywhere to clip on inside there. You open that door, and and it's windy. The man basket's blowing around. I mean, like, you're 150 feet in the air, big wind, being pulled around a curved tower. So we did not want to do that. They were like, well, yeah, can't you just go up and open that thing and have him climb over? And it's like, no. So there was a big conversation about that. We would rather get it up to the point where we can go down through the hatch, get him in a good harness, get him, knowing what it is. I mean, he wears a harness every day, but not our harness, right? He wears a worker's harness. So, make him comfortable in an enclosed space with that, then get him up on top with ropes on him. And then actually we had like a little 4-to-1, so we could tighten it up as he moved forward. We could keep him, tight, and then step into the basket. And then our guy then could go up and do the same thing. So there were like their version of, just go up and open that door and he climbs out and it's going to be good. And our version of, he's 150 feet up with no railing, no nothing, that don't work, right? It's going to be a little harder to go out the top, but it's going to be way safer because at the top of the little elevator was a railing. So we can get him up there and get him comfortable. And then he can, we can hook some stuff on him to make it safe. And then he can step into the railing. So kind of just letting them understand the process we were envisioning. So they were like, oh, okay, we get it now. So yeah, you're right. We could open that door, but there's nothing stopping something bad from happening, kind of thing. That car jiggles or drops or does something weird, it ain't worth it.
If this had been a rescue situation where, you'd come in and say, hey, this guy's having an immediate medical emergency or he was injured and you're going to have to expedite that, would you have done anything different?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I don't think setting up a whole rope system and doing all that, I don't think in the end would have been faster. The crane got there pretty fast, within an hour when they called it. The setup for the man basket, to hook that up and then test it and do all the things and hook our ropes on it, the things we needed to do non-standard work out of it, really didn't take that long. Because like I said, we were really lucky. The guys who were assigned that job knew about rigging. So they were able to talk to the crane people, explain how we were going to do this, what we wanted to do. They weren't speaking in two different languages. So that really helped out. And then they moved off on it. It was really, I think the right people were there to make it work out pretty well.
When you're working with outside agencies, and this sounds like it went well, a great cooperation, you guys work together on a regular basis. But back in the brief period that I was involved in technical rescue, we'd go 70 miles away. And oftentimes, it'd be a farm where the farmer didn't even want to call 911 to begin with. They were trying to take care of it themselves, or the local jurisdiction tried to take care of it, not having any technical rescue training. So, as a sidebar to this, and again, this incident went well, but how do you kind of mentally prepare yourself as you're responding in to try to get a situation like that under control and start to actually manage the risk with the critical factors, having a decent incident action plan when it's not in your favor with the local jurisdiction or the person's having the emergency?
I think a lot of that comes down to people skills, probably. You when you show up, like in us, we're like a third party there, right? You had the fire department's there, whoever's there, and then this technical rescue team is kind of the third party. We in this instance, we knew everybody, so it was not an issue. But we've been called way far away, and shown up more in trench. I think Josh, you at a trench rescue we made years ago, you showed up and there was a bunch of people in the trench, and so you can't just go, hey, you kind of do some just in time training to the chief, kind of like, hey, here's the risk, here's what's going on. Yes, they're down in there, but you have potential to lose your people. You kind of like, you don't say, hey, I'm telling you to get those people out of there, because that's just, you're going to get pushed back and that just starts a downhill slide. Kind of being more of the, hey, without you knowing it, let me quickly teach you like what the dangers are here. The dangers are this, and this. You're putting your people at extreme risk. We can't even see this guy. He's totally buried. Like, the chances of survival are very slim, but there's nothing short here. You're putting your people at an undue risk. And so usually if you kind of lay it out nicely, not telling, but teaching in a way, they kind of come around and go, okay, yeah, you're probably right. Like, maybe we should get them out of there. Yeah, maybe we should.
So looking, you mentioned the harness, and the industrial harness is different than the rescue harness. How different is that? And is one more cumbersome than the other?
Oh, for lack, they don't have as many attachment points generally. They're generally just designed to be off their back. The connection point is a harness, there's a strap. They're all one piece. So one big long strap off their back, not on their waist where it's easier to move around and stuff like that. They wear those things all day, and they may, if they're lucky, they'll never hang in that thing ever, because it's really just designed for, oops, I fell, I didn't grab onto this, or I leaned out too far, or whatever reason. It's just a design to capture them if they fall, and then it's not going to be comfortable at that point because it's not designed to be hung in. Where ours are designed to be sat in, hung in, hold you in the right place, not cut off circulation here or there, that kind of stuff. So they're designed to be, I don't want to say more comfortable, but yeah, kind of more comfortable and ergonomically better for someone to be in than the worker style.
So you guys get to them. You're going to get them in the basket. You get them down. What happened after that? Once you started removing them.
So the man's basket got there. They had a pike pole ceiling hook with them, so they could pull themselves in and close and hold on. And we can talk about the rope side here in a little bit. But so the wind is blowing, moving around. So they got there. There were two people in there. So one's able to hold on. The other guy climbed over on an extended rope. So he can't be hurt. So he climbs over, talks to Dave. They open the hatch, and then he climbs down in there with Dave. He lowered the harness down to him, and Dave was like, I don't know how to put this on. I mean, it's a harness, I get it, but I don't know. It is a little more complicated than the ones they wear. Many more adjustments and all that, because you're designed to be hanging in it, not wearing it 8-hour day and never using it. So that guy climbed down in there with him, and that was a big conversation we had before we did any of that. Way back down on the ground was are they sure that thing can't move? Because our fear is our guy climbs down in there and that thing drops. It's going to, he's tied to that man basket. It's going to rip him through that opening at the top. So we had to really believe the crane, the elevator people, when they said, yeah, it's not going to move. Okay. At some point you just got to go, hey, it's your thing. At this point we trust you. We've asked you 10 different ways and you keep saying the same thing. I guess we're going to have to go with it. So go ahead.
Yeah, keep going.
So he climbed down in there with Dave, the rescuer, helped him get it all set up. And then, I wasn't there, so I wasn't in there, but the conversation, here's how this is going to work. We're going to be fine. And from my conversation with Dave on the radio, calm as a cucumber, no big deal. Just normal guy, no big deal. So he climbed out and then climbed into the man basket as he, came out and got on the roof with a little railing around it. Then they tightened up the strap between them, so there was no fall factor. And then he just climbed into the basket. Dave's good. They have him clipped onto the railing, just like you're supposed to. And then they stretch the piece out, give it to our rescuer. And then he climbs out on the roof and then moves into the man basket kind of thing. So it was all, once Dave was set, the harness was on him, that it was over pretty fast. Well, lower him to the ground.
Yeah. And any and once he was on the ground, maybe a little medical surveillance, or were you guys just
I'm going to be totally honest here. I was 300 feet. But they took him in the medic unit, talked to him, checked him out. He was fine.
All right.
He had no cold, anything. He was fine.
So you guys hot wash this afterwards, or any lessons learned after, or anything that you guys talked about that you would do different next time?
So on the rope side, our plan, we learned some things. So we didn't carry everything with us. We had just a little teeny weeny rope that we lowered a carabiner with a heavy carabiner on it, lowered it to the ground. And what we realized was, as we were lowering that down, it was going way far away. It was getting blown by the wind a lot. So it's we can't just lower a guy over the edge here because he's going to get blown away. We have no way to get him back to the elevator. The elevator came up, it's normal operation. It comes up through the ring we were on, and then it unlatches a door that opens, and then you just walk on that ring, go inside, do your thing. So we walked around the ring, and we were able to look at the other side of that cage and figure out how that door was released. So for us, basically we were going to, with lobster claws on, all tied off, lift him up so a guy could reach over and push this little lever, and then we were going to be able to open the doors. So then our plan was when we were going to, if we ended up having to do it, we were going to lower a guy down, because right on the track that the elevator rides on, so that they can hold on to that track as we lower them down so they don't get blown away. Because if they got, they're not going to fall, but if they get blown 30 feet away, I don't know how we get them back. It's like wait for the wind to stop, I guess. Hopefully he swings back in. So we were going to do that, have him be able to grab onto something as we lowered him so that he would be right on top of that elevator when he got down there. And then the process would have been harness on, Dave, all that stuff. And then because of that, we've had a couple, conversations of either a track line that would move Dave away from the elevator so the rope would not rub on it, and then down to the ground, or have the rescuer just sit on the top and just kind of keep the rope away from the elevator, lower Dave down, bring the rope back up, haul our guy back up, and then we climb down the ladder. But none of that happened because the crane works so well. But nice. It was safer, it was better, it was faster, it was safer for everybody. I mean, it's the way to go. So the hot wash, yeah, we all met afterwards. The rope people explained like what our plan was, because we really didn't have a plan until we got up there to see, what was there, how it would all work out. And then the crane people explained all the stuff they did, any issues. There really weren't any issues. It worked out, pretty as they had envisioned it would. It worked out pretty well. And then our thing, we were secretly hoping that the crane wouldn't make it there, but so we could do a rope rescue. But it made it there. It worked out fine. We climbed. I climbed up 300 feet. So instead of staying on the ground watching it like that, I could lean on a railing and watch it like that. So the big rescue happened. But it worked out. It was kind of like really nice, no big to do. All the ideas worked out as planned, minor adjustments. And then they did it. It worked out right. And Dave's fine. We're fine. Everybody's fine. And 300 feet back down ain't that big a deal.
No, we were the reason that we're blue card, all hazards management. The reason that we're doing this, 8 functions of command for technical rescue is, really these incidents, and that the local jurisdiction, when they don't have that capability, what can they do and what, can't they do? And John, you kind of mentioned it. If this was a big rescue, like a guy was hurt or something, what could you or would you have done different? Sometimes that triggers the local jurisdiction if they don't have the capability to, do some things that maybe they shouldn't. So that's what's behind, the 8 functions of command for technical rescue that the group's been working on, of what that really looks like. And it's really application of the system, but how do you apply the system to various technical rescue incidents? And, I think what we learned today from, some of the stuff Grant talked about, working with the local jurisdiction, working with the subject matter experts that are there on site, talking to people who are familiar with the crane resource, command function 1 deployment, like what, who's here, what can we do with them? And I always make the extreme, if you're an engine, you can't flow elevated water. So if you need a ladder truck, if you need to do that, you need a ladder truck. Well, different people have different skill sets, right? So, understanding, all of that, and knowing when you're at your capacity or when you need support. So really all of that lines back up to the, the whole system. And then, really the strategic decision-making model, talking about the critical factors, which clearly they evaluated all of that, kind of inside and out, made some decisions about risk management. Like, we do got some time because we've gathered information that the company said this thing's not going to fall. The guy seems to be stable. You were able to talk to him, all of those parts and pieces, developed an incident action plan, not a, this is what we do every time, but, had they already called the crane. We're going to hopefully that works, or in your case, maybe hopefully it doesn't work. But
I'm good.
And then having the backup for the rope system in place. So it's all the model we talk about, right? So it was a slow rolling offensive strategy with 2 incident action plans, a primary and a backup plan of what we're going to do differently. And I'm sure there were people there thinking about, like, well, if this doesn't work, what's the next step? And then having those people thinking about what's standing between us solving the problem. So some of the stuff Grant talked about, like the wind and the person getting blown further away from where the basket is, and the basket blowing around, and the not opening the door on the side, and all of those things, right? That's all really it's decision making, right? Based off those critical factors that you all identified, along with the people on site and the local fire department. So nice success story with a technical rescue event. So
yeah, it was it was really, and I can't, I've been at a lot of events like this where they're out in the open and there was a lot more influences played. And this was, to me, it seemed like it was just totally different because it was just a closed site. These people were here. We're going to fix this. We're going to take care of it. There wasn't just a lot of outside influences trying to pressure, the media this. And I'm not against the media. Just, they want this information. They want this. All those things weren't there. And it was really nice to just have the people you needed to talk to there, be able to just walk up and talk to them, have a conversation, make a plan, make a backup plan. Everybody, you good with this? Or you shoot holes in our plan, we'll shoot holes in your plan. We're good. I think we're good at that. Okay. Like, what do you guys need to climb? Start climbing. You guys, the truck should be here in a little bit. Get the stuff you need to, like, make that man basket work with a step off and a go down in a hole operation different than what they normally do from a man basket. Get that ready to go. And once that showed up, it clicked right into place. It worked really well.
All right. You guys got time for a timeless tactical truth?
Absolutely.
All right. Let's do it. Timeless tactical truth from Alan Bertocini. You can get the deck of cards at bshifter.com. And today we're looking, at the 10 of clubs. And this one says, command officers generally establish and continue command inside their regular response vehicle as a standard practice. Now, things get real drawn out. You have more players involved. Is it possible to stay inside an SUV for this long? Should we? Because we don't have an IDLH, is it okay to get out? What do you guys think about that? And really, Josh, maybe from you, what's the blue card answer? And Grant, what's the practical answer with you as a technical rescue team member?
Well, I'll kick it off as a the blue card answer is, we stay in the vehicle, and we know why we stay in the vehicle, because we want to be protected from, the outside elements. A good place to think. You can write stuff down. You got a lot of reference point stuff there. Everybody else, they're keeping everybody else away from you. Like they're not going to come there when I'm on the fire. Well, they do a couple times, and then they just don't come back right after a while. But it's different. And I'm listening to the radio. I'm an active listener, right? A primary piece of being an incident commander is I'm an active listener. I don't want to miss any radio traffic. I should never miss any radio traffic. And then, in this type of an incident, there's going to be a command team, and it's going to also have, a lot of people from, anytime you're on a commercial site, you're going to have that subject matter expert influence, right? So at a hazmat incident, I might have the plant operator and some chemists, and I want them right there with me. Well, they're not all going to pile in the car. So ideally, in time, if I could have a command van there, if you could have a command van there, that's really good. But I've been to plenty of incidents where at a fixed location, where is the command team, if you will, fire department, response team, subject matter experts, maybe police, end up in a corporate office space that is actually designed to be a command location on like a chemical site, or sometimes in these other industrial, like very large industrial facilities like this, that are, 3, 4, 5, 600 acres, oftentimes they have a place there. So it's almost like its own little emergency operations center, and command can, operate from that point. But really the key to it is whoever that team makes up that team, just has to stay together, right? We just have to put a leash on everybody. It's hooked to the center pole, and nobody leaves this site. The listening is still important, but the thinking and networking and running stuff up against each other is, oftentimes even more important. And these aren't fast-paced events. These are, oftentimes long, drawn out pieces. So, Grant can talk to, like, what did it look like there?
Well, I think the other thing is just like we talked about the crane, so the fire department, their technical rescue team, somebody says, yeah, I think we could do this with a man back, so with a crane. Well, the fire department's not going to call the crane company, because the crane company is going to want to know who's paying for this, right? So you have to have all those people together to say, now we go to the plant people and say, we think the safest, best, most effective, fastest way to do this is with a man basket and a crane. You're going to have to call for one, because we're not paying for it. And the crane companies, when you call them, they're not going to say, well, yeah, we'll send it out there. We'll figure it all out later. Most likely they're going to want to know who's paying for this, right? So just everybody's kind of got to be where you can have that conversation. The fire department or rescue team has their conversation. Then the managers of that go to the next group and say, okay, here's our plan. You need to be a part of this, right? So the Duke guy may not need to be in the conversation we have with the fire guys, right? The tech rescue has with the fire side, saying, here's what we think will work. Here's what we think will be best, not best, that kind of thing. And then, okay, they parse it out and they go, okay. And then he moves down to, all right, now he's going to go to that group. So they all need to be able to be together and kind of be able to converse back and forth easily, because, that's their guy, right? In the end, it's their guy up in there. And, we don't want them to, again, we want them to know everything we're doing. And then when we need stuff, we go to them and say, here's what we need, and they go, okay, we'll get it. Okay, good enough. Thanks.
Grant, thank you very much for being here today and sharing this incident with us. You are a great storyteller, and your experience is so valuable to share with all the listeners here on B Shifter. So thank you very much for sharing that incident. I'm glad the outcome was good. Everyone was safe. No one got hurt. And certainly you guys did it in a safe way and managed it very well. So thank you for sharing that with us today.
Absolutely. It was great being here. I got my steps in that day. So
all right. All right, Josh and Grant, thank you very much. Thanks for being on the episode today, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, John.
Thanks for listening to B Shifter.